join the fight, come on, ignite like share, subscribe, we'll take flight, find us in Colorado. Raising our voice, filming the cops, it's our choice. Making the meetings, breaking the mold, making the news, the truth be told. On the tube, we spread the word, you people know it's absurd. Free press, we won't digress, good citizen, yeah, that's our address. Always fighting for what's right, we're the ones who shine so bright. Digress, good citizen, yeah, that's our address. Always fighting for what's right, we're the ones who shine so bright. Start, we the speakers of truth, no doubt. Check out the people on YouTube, shout it out, stand up, let your voices break the chains. Civil rights, free press, this is our game. Media that reveals the hidden facts, we won't be silenced, watch our backs. Government watchdogs, keeping them in line. First Amendment, our freedom to shine. Courts, cities, towns, it's time to rise, never back down, hold them accountable, no compromise. We're winning this fight, one step at a time. Good citizen media, we're here to shine.
Hey everybody, good to see ya. Tonight we've got special guest Shaun Luttrell with us. Good to see you, Shaun. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Awesome. We've got Gary Reed with us from Thunder Country 92.1. Morning.
Good evening, guys.
Good to see you, Gary. Thanks for coming. And we've got John Denicola with us here tonight.
Evening, gentlemen. John. Evening, everyone.
You people in the chat, good to see you. So you people's going to be covering the Aguilar meeting tonight, guys. So I'm over here. You'll be checking him out here shortly. He'll be covering that meeting. I think that one starts in what, an hour or something like that? Hour and a half, you people? You got this. Now we got a few people going to come into the chat. We're giving them a few minutes to get in. If you want to take that time and just tell us a little bit about yourself, Shaun. I mean, I know we spoke briefly just through chat there. You know, you said you were telling me why you got into government, right?
So, first of all, I'm native Colorado. When I was born and raised here, I was born in St. Mary Cortland's Hospital in Pueblo. I'm 40 some odd years old. I'll be that until I turn 50. And then I started this out just right after the 2020 election. Just saw all the chaos that went on that, and decided I needed to be involved somehow. So in 22, I ran for the precinct chair for the greater part of Fowler and won that because nobody wants these positions. Right. Pretty much just showed up and said, "Hey, you want to be precinct chair?" Yeah, sure. Okay, you're precinct chair. Exactly. Because nobody else wanted it. Been doing that for almost 3 years now, and rowing a rowboat in a windstorm, because that's what I found out really fast in politics. It's what it is. You row a rowboat in a windstorm and you try your damnedest and you might get something accomplished. Through that, it was suggested that I ran for Fowler Town Council. So, and I live here. I love it here, and I want to make the community a better place to live. So I ran for town council, and pretty much here I am. A lot of the complaints I heard when I was going around getting my petition signed, and again, a lot of people get really confused about this. No, there was no election. Again, just like me running for precinct chair, nobody else wanted the position. And I filled out a petition. I got 20 people to sign it, which was 5 more than the minimum requirement. And nobody else ran, so they canceled the election, and I won by default. So that's out there. That is how elections work. When you run unopposed.
We
to
see
get
so
position.
many appointed. Yeah, it's terrible down here. It's hard to get the community involved.
Right. And I wasn't appointed. I did run for this position. It's just
yes, sir.
nobody ran against me.
Right.
Right.
Which makes it better.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd prefer a challenge. I'd prefer some competition because I may not have the best ideas in the world. My first time ever doing any of this stuff, I couldn't write a law if my life depended on it. So, yeah, there very well could be somebody better for this position. And if they want to run, I welcome it. So,
Well, and in the time you've been there, I mean, what off the top of your head do you feel that you may have accomplished? I mean, like you say, it's not easy. I understand that, but is there anything that sticks out
so
to you?
far, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
At this point so far, I really don't feel like I've accomplished anything. I've been spending the last, I don't know, since April, just pretty much learning how all this works. For the most part, decided that I found out really fast that once you get into the position, you all of a sudden find out that everybody's afraid to talk to the public. The public can be scary. The public likes to chew your butt, and the public don't understand what's going on. So, it's a lot of most all of the other councilmen out here just don't want to deal with it. And I said, I didn't want to be like that. You don't run for public office just to do your own thing. I want to hear from everyone else. And so it just, since Christmas, I've decided this is what's wrong. I need to get out. I need to talk to people. I don't hardly know any people in Fowler anyways. I've only been here since, since 2020. So, and I'm not honestly a very sociable person. I kind of keep to myself. I've always been that way.
I'll be honest. I've heard good things about you from the community members. So I was glad to have you come on the show. I mean, it's not easy.
No.
And you have to have thick skin, right? Like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So what? It's so somebody doesn't feel a certain type of way about you. It doesn't matter. It's that way with anybody. You know, it's the same for us. A lot of people might not be their cup of tea, and we're public figures just the same as you're a public figure. So they say what they want, you know. Like, so we can understand that part of it, but yeah, it's definitely not easy. It's especially when there's no community involvement, right? Like that's what, because if they don't have the knowledge, then well, a lot of times they're pissed off about something they only have half the information on, right?
Right.
We see that a lot.
The biggest complaints I hear is the water. Our water, the price of our water bill, earlier instances of the town wasting money. I haven't really seen that, although I'm actually kind of guilty of it myself. We can get into that if you want. There's a farm out west of town, right on Highway 50. It's about a mile west of Fowler here. The guy that's currently leasing it from the town grows sunflowers. In fact, our past congressman, our congresswoman, Lauren Boebert, has purposely stopped there last summer to take a picture in front of his sunflower field because she thought it was absolutely awesome. But that farm was purchased by the town of Fowler for $2 million. And from what I understand, it was purchased for the water rights because they were convinced that they had to have as much water as absolutely possible. They didn't want to run out of the water. They were afraid that if the town grew, they wouldn't have enough water to meet demand. And plus, everybody up north is trying to steal water from this area. So, which are all valid concerns, but they didn't do any research. They didn't do any homework. They found out that the 2 wells that they wanted on this land were we're licensed for agricultural only. And I don't know if anyone here knows anything about water court. If you do, you probably know more than I do. But from what I understand, if something's licensed, if a well is licensed for agricultural use only, it's impossible to get it relicensed to anything else. And you can waste upwards of $500,000 in court trying to do that with about a 5% chance of succeeding. So that ended up being an absolute waste of money. And right now we're leasing it to this gentleman that when I first went on town council, I got to tour the town with our head of public works and got to see everything in town, all the infrastructure and everything. And we went out and we met this farmer, and he's a really nice dude. But yeah, he's currently leasing that farm from us for steel. I don't know the exact figures, so. And I might ramble off and
no, water is definitely an issue there in the valley, right? Like it's coming up on everybody's radar. All these towns, there's a lot of companies. There's a lot of people wanting that water, right? But what's that going to do to the communities? And I see it on many levels, like you just said, for growth, for agriculture, for just
agriculture's where it bugs me the most, because these farmers will get so much pressure to sell out their water rights, and they'll sell them for a good chunk of change that they can probably retire on. And then those water rights are gone out of the valley forever, and nobody can ever use them again.
Right. And
that plot of land that those water rights are on dries up and turns into weeds for eternity.
And I've seen the paper where they're inquiring. They want to know. They're filling it out, if anything, probing the area at the least to see exactly how many people that are hurting they can take advantage of, right?
So a pretty prominent farmer in the area got a hold of me about that paper that I shared. And it's a lot less benign than it looks. And pretty much all it is water sharing. If a farmer's not using their water, they're more than welcome to lease it to another farmer on the same waterway. It happens all the time. If you're using water off of Catlin Canal and you've got a neighbor that's using water off of Catlin Canal, you've both got head gates, and you're going to let your field sit for a year. You can lease your water for a year to the same farmer on the same canal. That happens constantly. What the Water Conservation District was trying to do is see if somebody wanted to do something on the same thing, but upriver from us. I don't know where, probably like Fremont County or something. But instead of leasing the water on the same canal, what they do is you'd lease your water to somebody upriver, and then that canal gets a little more water while our canal down here gets a little less, just about your share worth. So, and I don't know how those contracts work. I don't know if it's through the government, I'd be highly skeptical. If it's through the conservation district, if it's in between canals or in between in between the farmers personally, as long as you got a decent lawyer or you know what you're doing, I really don't see that much of a risk in it. So,
Shaun, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
You were saying that the gentleman that bought that property for $2 million has a lease with the town.
Yeah, he didn't buy the property. He's just leasing it from us. It's like he's renting. So
that would lead me to believe that there's a contract between the town and him, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And no, I've never asked them for that contract, and I've honestly never even thought about it.
Yeah, that's something worth looking into.
Did we have anybody in the chat asking questions? I haven't been paying attention.
We just said, what is the name of the farmer leasing that $2 million property?
And I shook the man's hand, and I am the worst person with names.
Somebody said Marsh.
That sounds familiar.
Okay, so Mark Marsh, possibly. Yeah,
Possibly. I don't remember.
we'll go with I think.
Yeah. I apologize. That's my
No.
biggest weakness. I am horrible with remembering names. I could see your face a million times and not remember your name.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions, guys? You guys feel free to put them in the chat, and we will get them.
There's been a lot of controversy about the quality of our water, from what I've been seeing, and I've been asking a lot of questions about this. I do know back when my parents moved in here, I talked my parents into moving out of Pueblo and into Fowler. Back, I think around 2010. Anyways, when they moved in, water, as I understand correctly, Fowler was regularly getting bad testing on their water system. At the time, it was just raw water coming straight out of the Hammond well, and it was constantly coming up high on something that was some metal or something that was deemed hazardous by the state, and so the residents around here were constantly getting those letters in their water bills saying don't drink the water. It's not safe to drink the water. And that happened for quite a while. In fact, it didn't end until 2018 when the town finally installed our water treatment system, which just consists, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a water softener. I've got one sitting just one room over in my house. It's a bottle about, I don't know, 2-3 feet tall, that with deionizer pellets inside of it. And it runs the water through there. It pulls all the heavy metals out of it, limes, all the minerals out of it, and then pumps it back into your house where you can drink it. It softens the water. That's our water treatment plant, except for these bottles aren't 3 feet tall. They're 10 feet tall. They're about this. There's 3 of them, and they're about the size of small cars. And they don't treat the entirety of what we use out of the Hammond well. They treat about half of the water that comes out of the Hammond well, but it's enough to dilute the system, plenty enough that those metals are way below state standards for being hazardous. There was only one other instance where, for some reason, it is just like 2 or 3 years ago, our water spiked in uranium for some reason. Now, the Hammond well is only a half a mile from the Arkansas River, and it's not very deep. It's only a few hundred feet deep. So we're pretty much fed off the Arkansas River, just filtered by about a half a mile of sediment. And anything upriver could have caused that. And it spiked 1 month and then came back down. And after a couple of months, it was back down below, the state's hazard levels. And that's the only other time. We're looking at hooking into the Ark Valley conduit, which is treated water from the Pueblo Border Waterworks' treatment plant, which, when I understand from talking to the Water Conservation District this morning, because I went down there, I've been missing all their meetings, so I decided to go down there and talk to them personally this morning. And they said that treatment plant provides enough to supply Pueblo with water 10 times over, and so has plenty enough for the. There is a lot of questions about the pricing on that, and that pricing has fluctuated quite a bit.
Right, because it depends on how many other neighboring towns are going to hook to it. right? Because
And
we're
how much they end up still owing. They're doing a lot of
exactly
that conduit on loans, and they're going
so
to stick
some
it to the towns to repay those loans.
yeah, some of that we've followed through a couple of the other towns out that way that we cover because they're in the same boat, right? And of
Mhm.
course, it's hard to get the people into the room so that way they can have their voices heard. So then it leaves it all up to I see pros and cons to it myself. Um, but I know like Rocky Ford, they're not in a position where they can hook to it right now. Their water loss is 51%.
Right.
So
They are absolutely scrambling to fix their water system so that they can get on, because they extremely want to get on onto the Ark Valley conduit, and they have been scrambling, and they've been getting a lot of bad press about it because they've been hiking their water bills or their sewer bills,
yes,
their sewer tax to
sewer
cover
just
it.
went up. They were just
Yeah,
working on their sewer and
yeah.
a few things like that. So how do you personally feel about the conduit? Is that something that you'd want to see for Fowler or?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think Fowler is hurting for water capacity. I really don't. We have 2 more wells sitting there dormant in the Gibbons building that we just bought that are perfectly capable of being used for municipal water, with a little bit of legalese to get it done. My biggest concern is if we don't, we need to upgrade our water plant. Just filtering half the water for the town isn't enough, and we need to be at a capacity where we can filter all the water coming into the town out of the well, and with some in reserve for future growth.
Well, and
But
it sounds like you guys are in a decent position as well because I mean the conduit ain't free. When you hook to that, it's going to
no,
cost money. So
right,
upgrading your system is going to
and that
cost some money, but that's investing in yourselves versus investing in Pueblo, right? The way I see it.
money just doesn't come out of thin air. I mean, that money is going to come out of everybody's pockets in their in their water bill. So, and there has been talk about trying to arrange things so that that doesn't happen, but with the fact that we don't have no idea what it's going to cost yet, that's still up in the air and fluctuating. It's really kind of hard to plan
Well,
for that or make plans.
Dola, I mean, Dola's a great resource for that. I mean, there's a lot of grants out there, at least like matching or USDA grants to upgrade these things. In my opinion,
Oh,
well,
I was talking about
the state's levels are lacking, right? Like even
right.
even what the state considers clean water, I mean, I personally don't, right? Like
Right.
the EPA hasn't adjusted their standards in like 25 years or something like that, you know. But I agree, like there's got to be a way to fund it, even if it is a small amount to the citizens, or like say maybe a DOLA match grant or something, right?
When it comes to upgrading our water processing plant, most definitely. I mean, that can be done. We can find ways to do that. Um, Trying to offset the cost of the Ark Valley conduit plug-in is what I'm concerned about. I don't want to raise people's water bills where they're already paying at least $125 a month. Or, well, I think my water bill average is $115 a month. So that's a
Yeah,
good.
water's the new gold out here, isn't it?
It is. It
It's
is.
crazy. I mean,
Especially when you're dealing with not just Aurora, but Kansas and um, um, I mean, even on the other side of the state, I mean, they honestly they have it worse than us because they not only have to deal with Aurora, but they also have to deal with Arizona, New Mexico, California is a huge one, and Nevada, because they all want their water. So,
all right, so
um,
I got a question up there on the screen for you if you can see it. Is that
Yeah, so that's been I've heard this one come up quite a lot of times. So how this works is get someone, my water's shut off. Why am I still getting a water bill every month? And it's because half their water bill's a tax. And it concerns me, and I don't like it. I understand why they're doing it, but the town's perspective on it is regardless of whether you're using the water, you're living in the town, you're using the sewer, you're using the drainage on the streets, and all that stuff is tacked onto the water bill. And so they're gonna they want to keep charging you a water bill. I don't like that, and I honestly I have been seriously considering of lately talking to the mayor and our administrator about that. That just seems wrong. That's going to be an uphill battle too.
Hey, Shaun.
Mhm.
So we're kind of going through the same thing in Rocky Ford. Only we had we've had this on the books for quite a few years now, and that's dormant water tap fees, stuff like that. And I'm not sure that I don't agree with a lot of things, but as a landowner in the town, whether it's Rocky Ford or Swink or Fowler or wherever, that water main goes by that house, and I realize that if nobody's using it, there's not going to be any water going to the house, but it still costs money to maintain that water main, and so. You said it's a tax, and that's exactly what it is, because you're not paying for any water. You're paying for that main that could bring water at within an hour. All you got to do is go hook up the meter, and that's what a lot of people are up in arms here, because a lot of these properties, I don't even know. It seems like we have about 1,900 properties. Probably about 100. I think they figured 120 or 150 were vacant, have been vacant for a long time, and that's a pretty good chunk of cash that's not going in to repair infrastructure. And so that's one thing. That's one way to look at it. And believe me, I was the same way when and all of my taps have water going through them. So, but the idea that for empty properties. I was a little frustrated too, but you really put a pencil to it, and you understand that that's part of it. I mean, that's part of being a homeowner is you still have to pay for stuff in the ground, and you may not be using it, but you may want to use it tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah. Well, see, and if you look at your water bill, you'll see fee.
Right.
Fee. Those aren't fees. Those are taxes. I mean, I'm conservative. Our state government has proved this with the dang bag tax and the delivery tax. They're not fees. They're taxes. But they're still that's exactly what those are paying for. It's miniature socialism, but it's required. Somebody's got to pay for the maintenance on the entire sewer system in the town, the stormwater drainage system in the town. People have to get out every week, every month, clean these things out, manage them. We've got a cesspool just north of town that processes all of our sewage. And from what I understand, I may be wrong, but I'm fairly certain processes all the sewage from Alney Springs too. So all that infrastructure has to be maintained, and somebody has to pay somebody to maintain it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I get it too. Why am you already shut off my water? Why are you still adding to my bill? It's frustrating, and the thing of it is those fees are such a small part of the town's income. The town of Fowler brings in roughly $2 million a year in income in total. That includes money we get from the state, all of our income taxes, which are not income tax, sales tax. Sales tax is the majority of our income. and everything. Those fees on your water bill is really just a very small portion of what we bring in. I really still think it would be a service to the community if we shut off their water. We freeze their water bill until they get it, until they decide to have it turned back on. I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion, though. And
Or how
I
about
forgot to throw
possibly?
I'm
How about
sorry.
possibly if it's turned on within X amount of time, maybe there's a possible waiver of the fee, right? Like depending,
Right.
maybe make it, something that can be worked with like that. Maybe there's there's certain instances that happen that maybe somebody really doesn't need that bill at the time, but there's other people that obviously they're just turning it off, leaving it abandoned.
Right.
That's a little different.
Water is an essential commodity. It's an essential service that the town provides. I really don't see somebody living inside the city limits and hauling all their water. I mean, you can do that, but that's, and I expect maybe somebody might decide they must do that just out of spite, but I really don't see it.
So I have another question for you, Shaun.
Uh-huh.
So with that, you're talking about maybe they had to shut their water off. Maybe they're still living there. Maybe they're hauling their water in 5-gallon buckets or whatever. Well, they're still using the sewer, and the sewer does cost.
Yeah.
So I mean, if the house is totally vacant, then I can see there may be some leeway there. And I don't know how many people in Fowler, they leave town for a few months. Maybe they go vacation. Maybe they're snowbirds or whatever. And I can kind of see that pausing their water bill or something like that. But again,
on the other hand,
we're talking a lot of expensive stuff here.
There's another one I've heard. There is, and because the town of Fowler has actually 2 separate water systems. They call it the soft and the hot water, but in all honesty, it's potable and non-potable. We have the potable line that comes into your property. That's for your drinking water. That's what you drink, you shower, you wash your dishes in, all that good stuff. There's a non-potable line that comes into your house too. That's mainly, its purpose is for irrigation, is for watering your lawn. Although, like, my house is plumbed so that the toilets run off the non-potable water. There have been instances where people have dug up their non-potable line and put because most of them, they're extremely old, and they have a valve. Some of them don't have a valve at all. Some of them have a valve that literally has to be dug up to be shut off. There's no service to it. Nobody's put in a way for you to get down to it. You have to dig it up. It's been buried over time. People have had their hard water lines dug up and shut off or capped because they were leaking in their yard or they were leaking in their house, and so they no longer use it anymore. But they're still getting paid that fee on the line item on their water bill. And I understand that too. I don't. Again, it's not a fee; it's a tax, and it's not there because you're using the line. It's there because everyone's using the line, and we're collecting that tax so we can keep those lines maintained. Not just the lines, the entire service. There's a huge water tower out here. There's the pumping station for it. That water actually comes out of a separate well that's only about 500 to 1,000 feet from the Arkansas River on our side of the county line. And that all of that requires maintenance, and that's where that fee goes. It's just like your sewer tax. It's all just like your stormwater tax. And I get that. It's frustrating. Why am I paying for water I'm not using? I understand that. I really do. I don't have absolutely good answers for that. I do think though that like if somebody is late on their bill, I've done this before. Threw my water bill on the table, forgot about it, get a notice in the mail saying, "Hey, we're going to shut you off," and then get shut off the next day. I've experienced that, and people are having hard times that can't afford their water bill. It might take them a month or two to get that cleared up, and that continually charging them a water bill even though they're shut off. That to me, honestly, I think we need to pause there. We ought to pause and let them catch up.
What's the lead lines situation out there? What's the amount of lead lines out there? I mean, the elbows,
as far as
the
I
lines.
understand, all of that was removed in 1999. Our
Okay.
entire water system is PVC, all the way up to the house.
So no lead at all.
No lead at all.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. So.
Oh, let's see. Reading through chat here, double check, see if I missed any questions.
Now, that's the potable water. The non-potable water is the same deal. And I was trying to get to that. The town has an issue because we have these two separate water lines going into each house. If somebody does get shut off, they both come in at the same exact location, like might come into my utility room in the basement. It's not all that hard if you've got some PVC pipe and some glue to repipe it so that that hard water line goes into your faucets. That is a problem that we have. We shut people off and they'll just do that. And then they still got water. Everybody needs to understand that water is untreated and it will 100% make you sick. We don't even test that water. We have absolutely no idea what's coming out of the hard water lines at all. That's meant to go on your grass, not in your body. Please, please, for the love of God, don't drink it.
I would agree.
And talking about that two water system, Swink still runs that in Swink too, and so all of like for me, my yard and my toilets, they're all plumbed on the hard water. I just like to call it hard water because that's what it is. But and then of course the other water. But at the same time, a few years ago, they went in and installed meters on the hard water to keep track of that, because we were in the middle of a desert, a drought, I guess, and there were lots and lots of green grass in these yards, and so that prompted the water meter thing, and of course that's a lot of money, but that also would stop your people from bypassing from hard water to soft water also.
Yeah.
On that.
We've had that concern too. We have water restrictions in Fowler that are pretty much permanent. It goes by address. You're only allowed to water for so many hours and only on certain days, 3 days a week. That really has nothing to do with droughts or anything like that. It's simply the fact that the water tower, that the water tank that holds our hard water supply isn't infinite and it doesn't fill very quickly. And so if everybody in town all had their water, their sprinklers on all at the same time, you drain that tank really quick. So that's why they've got that set up. I can kind of get that. I can absolutely guarantee you that's not going to happen at Fowler. I know I've spoken to a few of the other trustees and that's never came up. I don't think anybody's interested in doing that, and I'm definitely not for doing that. I absolutely love the fact that I can water my lawn and not worry about it affecting my water bill. And when I lived in Only Springs, I installed a sprinkler system in my yard, and my water bill went from $100 a month to $300 a month, just trying to grow grass, and that turned out horribly because they only have one water system. It all comes off the meter, and they don't care what you use it for.
So in Fowler, then you don't have an extra line item for your hard water.
There is a line item on the water bill for your hard water. You do get charged for it, but it's a flat rate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a flat rate.
So funny story, just for those of you guys on these two systems, and when Swank changed up to put their meters in, we besides the school at that time, of course, Holly Sugar's been out for a long time, but I would have been probably one of the single biggest water users in town, and everybody was mad because they were putting these meters on, and chances are the water was going to go up. And I come from the place where it costs money for this stuff, and if it's going to cost me a little more, it's going to cost me a little more. And they put the meter in. I was paying a flat $142. They put the meter in, and now my metered water is $42. So they actually lost money when they put me on a meter. So
Thunder Rolls Media, I just hope you understand we're talking about Fowler water. We haven't discussed anything with Crawley County at all. So no, your drinking water is drinking water. I'm sorry, I was reading the comments.
Oh yeah. How do you get the comments? Once in a while, a comment will pop up on my side, anyway.
Yeah, I mean they're scrolling pretty slowly, but I just that one caught my eye. She was kind of freaking out a little. I'm not sure if she was being sarcastic or not, but.
Okay. So I have another question. When you were talking about the city buying that farm, man, $2 million. What size of farm was that? Was that like?
I don't know what the acreage is. It's big though. He's got quite a few fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That was a question I never asked. I never asked how big.
And does it? And did it come with ditch water as well as the 2 wells, or what?
I don't know that one either. I don't know if he's running off of the Otero ditch or not. I think that's the ditch that runs nearby.
No, the Oxford is what runs up there.
Okay.
I don't know. South of the highway.
As far as I know, that's what he's using the wells for.
Yeah. So that's I can't believe he'd be using wells to irrigate that place without having water shares to augment the water back into the river, because that's where that system works, and that's probably whoever. And I don't know how long ago they bought it, but that's probably what they had in mind. Is any water that you pull out of a well, you got to augment a certain amount of that back into the river.
Yeah, I know that. As far from what I was told, as for our municipality, every single drop of water that we pull out of the Hammond well has to go back into the river, which is absolutely asinine to me. I still don't understand that concept. What in the world are we drinking then? If every drop of water that comes out of our well goes back into the river, that's insane.
Well, it doesn't. But there's got to be that amount of water augmented from somewhere else to go back into the river.
From what I understand, municipalities like buy water from Pueblo. I mean, we'll buy 10,000 gallons of water from Pueblo and tell them, okay, just dump it in the river, which is absolutely asinine. And that whole thing that we got stuck with Kansas, and that is the most absurd thing in the world. That has got to be one of the worst things Colorado has ever done.
Well, it certainly wasn't my favorite, but
no.
So just out of curiosity, that Hammond well, is that the farm you're talking about? Was that the
No. The Hammond well is what we call the well that our municipal water comes out of, our drinking water comes out of.
So you guys have had it for a long time.
It's been there for as long as anybody can remember. That's what's always has fed Fowler water.
Yeah. So there's got to be you got to have some kind of record, because you got to have some kind of water going back in.
Yeah.
So
I can't answer that question. That's actually a really good question, because it might have. I don't even know if that's. Because technically we still own that. The town of Fowler still owns that land. So how are we doing his augmentation, or are we? How is that working?
Well,
I don't know. Those are actually excellent questions. I don't
and
have
to
answers.
save yourself from future aggravation, you might.
I'm going to start asking those questions.
might
That's an
get
excellent point.
a water attorney. You know, don't get your DUI attorney. You need to have a water attorney. I mean, that's what we were
Right.
talking about Aguilar augmenting water out of those gas wells. They're wanting to get rid of the water out of those gas wells, and they're willing to give it away. And then Aguilar wants to use that to augment their water back into the river. And man, it looks to me like there better be some kind of water attorney involved in that for sure.
Right. Cindy, the reason why we haven't sold that farm is because it's currently under 99-year lease. And no, that wasn't the current administration's decision. That was a prior council.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Got a 99-year lease to Marsh for that?
Yeah. I don't know why. Fowler loves 99-year leases. At least they
Yeah.
did before I got elected. The current council absolutely hates that idea. We don't want to give a 99-year lease to anybody ever again, but
So just
prior councils have absolutely loved 99-year leases
Yeah.
for some
So
reason.
just out of curiosity, my question is, you know, and I may have asked you already, who was the farm? I mean, what was the farm? Was that wasn't Marsh, was it? You didn't buy the farm from Marsh and give them 99.
I don't know who they bought the farm from, but it's, and I'm not absolutely certain. Again, I'm probably going to get my ass absolutely chewed tomorrow, but
That's all right. We'll all get it.
right. And no, that's a person. There's a person that's currently leasing the farm from us with a 99-year lease. I believe that's Marsh. I'm not absolutely certain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big question I'll be asking is who owned the property? And then why did we give this guy a 99-year lease?
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, if it was a good old boyfriend of the previous council somewhere down the line, and they're like, hey, we'll buy this farm for a couple $1 billion, and then we'll turn around and lease it back to you, and you know that and hopefully that's just my own conspiracy thinking going, but
Right. And I'm
Shaun,
sure I'm gonna have Marsh knock on my front door, going, "Oh, what the world are you doing?" Yeah.
how many people on this board were from previous boards?
There's only 2 left. Tracy Nelson is still in the middle of his term. When I got elected, and Bolin, Chad Bolin, is in the middle of his term when I got elected. So 5 people were reelected to a 7-member town board in April. So pretty much, for the most part, the board completely flipped when I was elected.
wow, that's kind of unfortunate because somewhere down the line they lost a lot of institutional knowledge there.
The previous board before that was pretty much a bunch of no call, no shows.
Well, then you're
Yeah.
looking good, then. You're looking good.
Right.
So they had no knowledge anyway.
Yeah. They didn't even resign. Technically, they have to resign for the board to actually be able to replace them. If they don't just start no call, no showing, that the board can't do anything about it. And at some point, enough people do that, you don't even have quorum for the board, and then the board's absolutely pointless. They can't even meet.
Right.
So,
well, they can meet, but they can't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So Cindy wonders, what's the new board's agenda? What are you guys trying to get done?
Fix the police department. That has been our main focus for pretty much since I was elected, is trying to get our police department reconstituted. We when I was elected, we pretty much had 1 officer and 1 officer alone. And right now, at the moment, we still have 1 officer alone. We have 3 more going through the going through training at the Otero Junior College, and they're set to graduate that somewhere this spring, and by mid to late summer they'll be on full duty on their own after on the job training and stuff.
So I got a couple questions regarding the department. Recently, we've seen a video of Mr. Day pepper spraying a crowd of people that he claimed were surrounding him. Maybe it's me and my lying eyes, but I don't see that happening. I assume that there was a lawsuit that bore out of that, or at least one possibly pending.
He is on permanent leave, unpaid. The last I heard, I mean, he's no longer a part of our department. There was the Fountain Police Department was doing an internal investigation on that. That was the last I heard of that. I kind of stayed away from that subject. You're not going to want to know my personal feelings about what he did, because I'm going to piss off everybody. So
Might as well start off right.
Huh?
Might as well start off right.
Right.
Get their attention.
Like, I watched that video. I watched everybody get up in his face. I watched people throw phones in his face. I mean, I've never been trained in law enforcement. I'm not a lawyer either. But I can absolutely guarantee you, if I had been that man, I would have pepper sprayed everybody at that house also. That was absolutely horrible. I'm sorry. I grew up back in a day where if the police show up at your party, you scatter like roaches. You don't want to be there for it. You don't need to deal with the police. You get the hell out of there, because the police are there for something you don't want to be involved with. The fact that everybody just stood around and just pulled out their cell phones and started yelling and screaming and cussing and at them and calling them every goddamn name in the book. I hope you guys don't mind if I'm cussing on here, but that was just absolutely insane. And I mean, granted, the cops have got a whole hell of a lot more restraint than they did back in the 80s and the 90s, but no, I don't have any sympathy for what happened there. Not one bit at all. And I'm definitely going to hear that one in the morning.
Well, I guess maybe I saw something different than you did. I don't know. I mean, but I think that maybe we'll have to go in and request more body camera footage from the incident, because I guess maybe you're looking at something that I'm not privy to.
And what I've seen is just what I've seen on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not privy to anything inside the police department.
And I got to be honest with you. Here's the difference between now and back in the 80s and 90s. The difference is the camera, right?
Right.
Back
and
in
the internet.
90s, they weren't under the microscope of a camera, which was watching everything that they were doing and things that possibly were getting done wrong. I mean, now cameras are there, and it's now all of a sudden you have the Integrity Act, you have the CRS, the Colorado Revised Statutes, requiring them to wear body cameras and to activate them anytime they come in contact with the general public. I can tell you right now,
in 16 CRS 16.3-311 gives me and you the ability to record a cop anytime they're on duty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's laws in this state that support, obviously, whipping out your camera. And I don't now, hey, we can talk about the George Floyd thing, people just stood there and whipped out their cameras. I don't always agree with just whipping out your camera, but we're big advocates of free speech, but that doesn't mean threats.
There's a big difference between whipping out your camera and getting right in front of the cop's face with it too. That back in the 80s and 90s, and there's a lot of cultural differences here too. Uh, my when I grew up, the culture was a whole lot different. But back in the 80s and 90s, we had a whole hell of a lot more respect for the police department than we do now. At least the way I was raised, for the institution, for the officers, for what they do, for what they have to go through. And I do see what officers have to go through. I mean, that is right now, as you said, with the invention of social media and the everybody having a camera in their pocket, we get live feeds on what cops have to deal with on a day-to-day, everyday basis. And because of that, it's made it a whole lot harder
I'll
to
tell you,
find
Shaun,
cops and hire cops. Nobody wants that job now.
I'll tell you, Shaun, this group here is probably responsible for a lot of that. I know personally,
I'm
our
not.
cameras have gotten rid of over 50 dirty cops here in Colorado alone. Cops that are hurting people, man. You
No.
know?
And nobody needs to be
It happens
aimlessly
all the
hurting
time.
people. That's for sure. But also, we have to have some kind of a respect for the institution, or we're going to end up with no law enforcement whatsoever. That's a serious fact. That is.
Well, I think that falls back on this, right? The problem here is the training that they're receiving, right? They're receiving the training and the tools to deal with certain situations. And in my humble opinion, what they're not receiving is the training as to how the laws are. You know, if you go up and we've seen it, you'll see it everywhere, where people ask a cop, what are the 5 elements of the First Amendment? And they don't know it. And it kind of lends credence to the fact that if you don't know those 5 basic freedoms, then you can't enforce a law if you don't know them.
You
Walk up to anybody on just
those
a random
freedoms if you don't know.
person. Walk up to a random person on the street and ask them to tell you the 5 elements of the First Amendment, and I'll guarantee you only 1 out of 10 will get it correctly.
I'd probably agree with you.
I
It's
agree with
a
that.
sad state we're in. You know?
It is extremely sad.
The
Civics. I mean, what happened to teaching kids civics? These things used to be grade school classes. And
right, and how to talk to each other. I mean, like, hey,
oh my God,
we're having a great conversation here tonight.
Mhm.
And again, I appreciate you coming up, because that's what it comes down to, man. Like, we're not these big bad bullies. I mean, hey,
No.
if you're doing something wrong and you're screwing over your people, we most definitely will find out. You know what I mean? And
Right.
we act on
There
on
has
what we
to be
find.
oversight. Citizen oversight is absolutely necessary. If the citizens aren't paying attention to what their government is doing, their government will walk all over them.
Every time.
I mean, we've seen that just in the last 10 years with the federal government, with the state government. Your local governments are no different.
Every time.
Your town
And
council
and
is
if you
no
look at it
different.
like this, Shaun, if you look at it like this, right? You know, you're going to want 50% or better of the community saying, yeah, we want this, or no, we don't, right? Well, when
Mhm.
they don't show up, when nobody shows up, that 50% is way skewed, right?
Right.
Because then it's just the 10 people in the room that create that 50% all of a sudden versus hundreds or thousands, right? Some cases.
On my side of it, sitting in that room, you know, being in the meeting, being part of the meeting, and making decisions, and you know, and passing laws and ordinances and all this stuff, and then getting on Facebook the next day and finding and realizing that nobody has any idea what you're doing, or what you're talking, what you've been doing, and just complaining. It is frustrating on my side of the. I really would wish, and you know, since I've started like speaking up and getting my ass chewed by the rest of the council for speaking up, don't get me wrong, they're good people. They really are. They're good people. They are scared to death that I'm going to make a bad name for our town.
Hey, and
They're-
we extend the invitation to them to come up here
Right.
just the
But
same.
and I understand completely where they're coming from, and I'm not going to knock them one bit for it, but they don't like that I'm doing this, and I don't know, maybe I can change their minds on it, but anyways, just in the last 2 months, Fowler's town hall meetings have been jam packed. It's been standing room only. It's been amazing. For the first 6 months that I've been a town council member, I've had like 3 or 4 people at town council meetings. One lady that
can we relate that to the social media?
I think so. Yeah, me talking, getting out and making posts on Facebook. Being precinct chair, I've got a lot of followers on Facebook, and a lot of them are local. In fact, I won't even accept friend requests if I can't verify that they're not in the state of Colorado, because I really don't give a crap what they have to say. I want to connect to Colorado as a precinct chair, because I'm deeply involved in Colorado politics, and so I've got a lot of locals that we're already on my Facebook. We're already Facebook friends with me long before I ran for city council, and so when I started posting about city council stuff, man, holy cow, somebody's talking about town of Fowler, and what in the world is going on here? So yeah, and it for the first like 6 months of being on town council, it was a ruckus. It was. I was hearing it from all sides, and
Shaun,
God bless the other guys on the town council. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see anybody doing anything that is self-serving on our town councils. From what I've seen, all these people love this town. They care about this town. They want this town to be the best thing they can.
Well, let me ask you something, and something that you just said kind of struck me, and forgive me if I misunderstood, but you said that anybody that doesn't reside in the state of Colorado, you could give a darn about, right?
Well,
But
on my
you
Facebook
guys-
feed,
on your
my
Facebook. Okay.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to clarify, because you're talking about on your Facebook feed. I just wanted to make sure, because where you receive federal dollars, even as a town, right? That would mean
Right.
anybody that pays federal taxes should at least have some semblance of a say of what goes on in the town.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So let me clarify something. And honestly, I should have started the entire meeting with this. This is my personal opinion. I do not speak for the town of Fowler, and I'm on the board of the town of Fowler, but my personal opinion isn't exactly the policy of the town of Fowler. So, and that is evident sometimes. My Facebook profile is my personal Facebook profile. I use it. I started Facebook just because I wanted to share pictures of my family, my kids with my mom. And that's all I used it for since like 2010. Recently, my Facebook pretty much now is just political stuff. It is an absolutely awesome tool for connecting with people in other counties and all over the state for getting stuff done in the Republican Party, advocating for things like our Second Amendment rights, for killing bills in the state legislature or promoting bills in the state legislature. And honestly, outside of being a town councilman and selling car parts at CarQuest, that pretty much permeates most of my life, is being very active in the Colorado Republican Party. And that's what my Facebook profile ultimately is used for. And that's what, so, and I've had that stance with my Facebook profile long before I became town councilman. It doesn't have anything to do with being town councilman. It's because I have found I would get friends requests because I'm politically active. I get friend requests from people all over the country, all over the world, just to turn around and spam my Facebook account because they don't like my opinions. And I just got sick of that, and I just stopped. I started filtering who I accepted for friend requests. So I can tell you that if I know that you're a member, that you're a resident in the town of Fowler, or even in Otero County, it's automatic. It's automatic. If you send me a friend request, it's going to get approved as soon as I see it. So, but as for the federal government, I mean, nobody in the federal government talks to me. And as for the federal government talking to the town, that all goes through our town administrator. Nobody in the town council, but except for the mayor, really has access to any of that. We get all of that filtered through our town administrator. So there is.
And how do you feel about the administrator? Do you feel you guys get the knowledge? Because a lot of places we find that's where the disconnect is, right, between the administrator and the board.
Well, we're currently in a flux in our administrator. Kelly resigned last month. Her last day was actually the 31st of January. She's staying on as under a contractor, under a contract through this spring, just long enough to get our new administrator, which we just hired at the beginning of the month. He starts February 1st, getting him trained into the position to where he can take over. So like I said, that whole thing is in flux at the moment. I barely met our new administrator for a whole 30 seconds, long enough to shake his hand and say hi and tell him I grew up in Pueblo too. Other than that, I haven't really had time to talk to him or get to know him yet. Kelly is a very nice person. She has been absolutely phenomenally nice to me. She does, I'm sure, filter stuff to us. I'm sure she's selective on what she tells us. And there are things by state law she has to be selective on what she tells us, especially if it has anything to do with human resources, personal issues with town employees and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff she can't by law tell us. So, and there is stuff by law I can't tell you guys. So, and most of it has to do with HR, personal issues. So,
I just want to back up 1 second for a minute. On your Facebook page, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you discuss things with the Republican Party and what have you, are you discussing any town business on that website, on your Facebook page at all?
I'm sorry.
Are you when you're talking on your Facebook page with people from Otero County or whatever, are you discussing any type of town business on there?
Not really.
Okay.
I discuss town business on. We have a Facebook group in the Telecolor. What's it called? I have to get out my phone.
No, I'm just curiosity, you know.
I have had one discussion with Jim Baldwin about our ordinance banning travel trailers and RVs from being parked on the curb. That's a really good because in all honesty, he got a ticket for having his travel trailer parked on the curb on a city street, and he called me quite upset about it. And we had a good discussion about that.
He was illegally parked if it's on the curb.
Well,
not much of a discussion.
Well, the town of Fowler has an ordinance that was enacted before I got elected, saying that if you own a travel trailer, it cannot be parked on a city street for more than 24 hours.
Right.
the reason for that is to stop camping on city streets. The reason, and I've had this discussion with other councilmen, I don't agree with the law. I honestly don't. There's other ways of stopping that. Supposedly there was somebody living in a travel trailer on a city street in Fowler, selling drugs out of the travel trailer, and they fought for like 6 months to a year to remedy that situation. And one of the ways they remedied that was by passing that ordinance. I don't like it. I don't understand it. If you're selling drugs out of a travel trailer, then somebody needs to be catching them selling drugs and prosecuting them for it. I mean, for one, and two, like my next door neighbor right across the street from me, he's got friends that live just north of town here, on a farm just north of town. They were getting their house renovated, so they moved their travel trailer over here right across the street from my house and lived in that travel trailer all summer, hooked up to my neighbor's electricity so that they could run their air conditioner because they couldn't live in their house. It was getting renovated. I don't see how that should be illegal. That just doesn't seem right to me. I had absolutely no problem with it. It made a little bit more challenging for me to get out of my driveway, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It's not like they were blocking the street, and they definitely weren't selling drugs or doing anything illegal other than having living in their travel trailer parked on the curb. I don't agree with that one bit.
Yeah, but
And
don't you
that's
think,
another fight. That's another thing I've been bringing to the town council on trying to change. I've had a few discussions on that, and it's been a bit of an uphill battle.
well, I would think that you should be able to go in and change the ordinance to carve out an exception for home remodels. You know what I mean?
I just think I'd like to own a travel trailer. I don't know if anybody seen my lot, but it's on the corner of 8th and Park, and it's tiny. I own a corner lot. It's 1/8 of an acre. It's got a huge garage on it, an extremely tiny yard. I have absolutely no place to store a travel trailer. If I buy a trailer, which I have honestly thought about, I'd have to pay storage on it in a storage yard, and that just doesn't seem right to me. I ought to be able to just hook up to it on a weekend and go whenever I want. I don't have to. That seems like extra steps. It just isn't, kind of turns me off from buying a travel trailer. I don't know. And all of this just may be me bitching. So,
well, I mean, realistically, again, these are things that you could carve out exceptions for. I mean,
yeah.
it'd be one thing if it's a travel trailer camper, right? As long as it's registered and the registration is up to date, then you could probably carve an exception out for something like that, along with, like I said, carving out an exception for home remodels or rebuilds for homes. I don't think that that's a major ordeal. I think it's a matter of just wording it correctly, getting it down on paper, and then passing it.
I just don't agree with the law, period. I just don't think it needs to be there. There was a better way to handle that situation, in all honesty, my personal opinion. But I don't know.
It's called undercover.
Huh? I'm sorry.
It's called undercover cop. I mean,
right.
When you stage a buy and then you hook them and book them.
Right.
It's not that hard.
That's the other thing. So, I mean, Fowler has had a problem staffing their police force for a very long time now. And 99% of it is just the fact that we can't compete pay-wise with other municipalities. I just saw a post on Facebook, just last week, at the city of Pueblo is hiring brand new fresh recruits straight out of the academy at $76,000 a year. And that's base pay. That's if they just get 40 hours a week. I mean, if they're getting overtime, they're probably likely to get a lot closer to $100,000 a year. That is more than our town administrator, our city manager makes. The person that runs the entire organization. That's insane. I mean, we really lucked out finding somebody he's young and he has no municipal administrative experience whatsoever, but we can't afford anybody with that type of experience. But he has a degree. He majored in accounting and minored in criminal justice, and we saw that and pretty much jumped on him because the price was right, and those are good degrees to have, and he's going to get a lot of training from our previous administrator, and I have to figure some things out on his own. It's a sad thing. We've got a $2 million budget, and we can't afford to buy police, pay police. It's extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating. And it's not just we hire them and we put them through the academy. They sign a contract with us to pay back our expense of putting them through the academy. So generally they have to work with us for 2-3 years. I think it's 2 years. And then they're off to bigger, better deals. The turnover in our police department is sad, and especially even with our chief. I mean, last 10 years we've had 4 or 5 chiefs of police. We just don't pay them enough. We have one police officer that is currently on duty. That's the only reason why he's currently on duty right now, is because he's used to be a police officer before in a different department. So he required a whole hell of a lot less training, and he was able to get through it a whole lot faster. And that's why.
So about what are you paying? I mean, because we pay attention across the state. We request.
Starting out, our police get $20 an hour, and then they get an increase every year.
So about 58,000 a year start out, something like that.
Yeah.
54, 58 in that area, right?
Right. But plus overtime. So that's I expect that's if you get 40 hours a week. They do, especially if you're the only cop on the job in the department, you get absolute tons of overtime. So
and then we have Upstate up here. I think he wanted to ask you a question here.
Go ahead.
Not really a question. I just have a statement about chiefs of police. Our chief of police, our old chief of police, was our old mayor also. He got fired as chief of police for doing drugs, and got fired as mayor for doing drugs, which gives us the present mayor and the present chief of police. Chief of police just resigned because he did something. I'm fixing to find that out. I can't wait. But things aren't looking too good for police and or mayors in this town especially. And what do we do when the higher authority decides that they're not going to partake in being honest? Now, I don't care who you are. If you're in the government, you're not going to be honest anyways. I found that out. I live in New York, so talk about blue state. My God, this is one of those states that everybody wants to leave because everything's so bass-ackwards and jacked up. Go look at New York City. I live in upstate New York. I live about 5 miles away from the Canadian border. Good Citizen knows me really well, and I've been in the auditing community. Actually, I'm a cop watcher. I don't audit, but I've been told by the chief of police I need to do my homework. Well, I've been doing all my homework on him, so I have a lot of dirt. And my question is, what the hell do we do when they decide not to abide by the law that they swore to protect?
Well, I assume they were talking about your town in upstate New York, right?
Right.
That's a good question. I'm not the right person to answer that question. I really don't have an answer for that. I mean, your town council or your elected officials in the town have the ability as a group to fire the chief of police.
Right.
Again, I don't even know how the laws work in New York. I've lived in Colorado my entire life, and every state is different. There's you'll be amazed at how much different each state's laws are. But your town council has authority over that, and if absolutely nothing else, you've got to be on your town council's ass. You need to be on your city elected officials' butt on that. If they hired, well, how
Shaun, let me pose the question.
was he mayor and police chief at the same time?
Shaun,
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Shaun,
Go ahead, John.
let me pose the question to you this way, right? This will probably be a little bit more direct. Right now, what we're seeing is a disparity between what the mayor and chief of police, that when they get charged with crimes, right, that you or me or a good citizen or Gary or upstate, right, if we were charged with that crime, we'd be looking at 3 to 5 years, right?
Exactly.
The disparity is the fact that these guys are getting charged. They're walking into a courtroom. A judge sees the fact that they were a chief of police or a mayor, and they're letting them walk out the courtroom with probation and their benefits that we're paying for. I think that's a more direct question.
And they knew originally they were wrong when they did the act. That's
exactly.
What
So I guess that's a more direct question to what the issue is here. Is when you see that type of disparity, and if you saw it in Fowler, would they be willing to go and treat them just like they would anybody else?
I would certainly hope I get treated as anybody else. In fact, I absolutely demand it. I don't want special treatment because I'm a town trustee. It looks bad on me. It's not just as a town trustee, but as a human being, as a man. It's against my morals. I'm a Christian. You don't treat me any different than anybody else. That's just wrong. I don't treat anybody else any differently than I treat anybody else. I treat everyone the same. I'm an asshole to everybody. So, no, I would not put up with that in Fowler. Not in the least bit.
You
No.
want me to tell you the moral of the story?
Sure.
Moral of the story: this ex-chief of police, ex-mayor, got, I think, 3 days in jail. Got off with probation for less than a year,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have to pay anything at all out of pocket. And he led the police on a low-speed chase and threw the crack out the window before he got caught.
New York is so messed up, and we're going that same direction. It's sad.
I have the arresting footage in my playlist. It's on my channel. But if you ever want to go check it out, look at Upstate Audit's and channel and go down and look at Chief of Police gets arrested.
I know that if I did
at that time.
yeah, I know if I did something stupid, I'd I guarantee you I'd get arrested, and somebody probably throw the book at me. I don't know.
That's what we hope with everybody.
Right. I'm sure everybody else on our town council feels the same way. I mean,
Look at Hunter Biden.
well, that is because your dad's the president of the United States and he controls the entire Department of Justice. I mean, that was, yeah, I agree with
Innocent
you 100% on
people
that.
don't get pardoned.
Nobody has any trust in our judicial system at all anymore, and there's 100% why. This is a very political opinion, but look at Tina Peters. That was an absolutely travesty of justice. That woman was actually trying to do her job to the letter of the law. The Colorado state election law states that it is her job to preserve election information, all election information. That's exactly what she's doing, and she got the book thrown at her. Got all kinds of lies told about her, and it's perjured. People perjured themselves in the courtroom, and she's still sitting in prison. It's a travesty. I don't get it. Look what they did to Trump for 4 years. What they did to Trump. I mean, that man has done nothing for the last 4 years but being in and out of a courtroom. Our president, who has been convicted of 34 felonies for what? A loan that he paid back with interest on time. It's absolutely insane. It is. It's stupid. It makes it, in all honesty, it makes me kind of sad to be an American.
Shaun, we actually had a question in the chat. A young lady had asked the question about, what do you think about citizens harassing other citizens, right, on body camera, where the sheriff's department presumably started doing fairly well until the body camera footage came out, and then it was a whole different animal, right? How do you feel that somebody can get justice with the sheriff's department, or even say, for the sake of argument, your officer in Fowler, when things like that are happening and nobody's doing anything to help prevent that?
I'd have to absolutely see the evidence on that, and plus, again, there's a lot of limits of what I can do. I can't personally just walk up to a cop and said, "You were wrong. That was wrong. You're fired. Get the hell out of here." I can't do that. It's literally against state code, state statute. That's something your town
Cops have
administrator has to
qualified
deal
immunity.
with. Huh?
Cops
I'm
have
sorry?
qualified immunity, and then they have the union,
Which
to
is
back
being
them up,
stripped
too.
in our state.
It's stripped
Well,
here, but they don't care.
All right.
Well, let's be clear though, Shaun, okay? The qualified immunity is stripped on the state level, and it's only good up to 25,000. And usually if they
Yeah.
go into the federal realm, they always claim qualified immunity in the federal realm. So
Right.
I just want to make sure that people understand the difference between the two.
And I'm not a lawyer. I don't.
Nor am I. I just want to put that out
Yeah.
there.
You know, this harassing people, sexually harassing people is wrong. But I'm not the man's judge, and I'm honestly, legally, I'm not his boss. So I don't exactly know how to answer that question, in all honesty. I don't like it. I think our cops should be right all the time. But they are human, and they can be pushed into doing things they shouldn't be doing.
But they're held to a higher standard.
They are held to a higher standard. Yes, most definitely. And if they break the law, they need to be punished, just like me, just like you, just like anybody else. Your police chief that was doing drugs should have been dealt with as a druggie, not as a police chief.
Right.
And yeah,
Actually, he was mayor at the time when he got busted for drugs, but he got busted for drugs as a police chief and got nothing except for fire. That's it.
Yeah. And see, they have a lot more experience with the law too, and how the judicial system works. Whereas I'd have to spend $50,000, $100,000
You'd think
on a
that's
lawyer to
more.
get that kind of service.
You'd think that'd be more reason not to break the law, right? Because they're supposed to know.
Right.
Know it.
Right.
Like, I'll give you an
There's-
example. I just got done with court. Cop didn't like me, right? He didn't like me. He didn't like me because my co-host was on the sidewalk recording him.
Right.
And he tried to give him directives. They're unlawful directives. So I told him, shut up. Shut the fuck up. He's doing what he does. You do what you do. Well, in that instance, he thought I needed to grovel or act like I was some sort of victim because I was jumped. Like, I needed this guy. I didn't call him, you know. Well, when it was said and done, he wrote me. And guess what? I won in court, right? So that's a wrongful arrest, you know. These cops, they know the law. They just choose to bend them.
You will always attract more bees with honey. I learned a whole long time ago that the cops are a whole hell of a lot nicer to you if you're nice and respectful to them. I don't know your exact situation, but I wouldn't have told. I don't know if that was a quote or not, but I would never tell a cop. I don't tell people to shut up, not unless I'm extremely freaking mad.
Yeah,
But,
when anybody violates my rights, they're definitely going to get words.
well,
No,
I
no
understand
doubt
that,
about it.
and I'm going to
That's
have
where
words with people that
start, right?
that
That's anybody that violates my rights.
Yeah.
Now, when you put them in a government capacity, well, then it becomes redress. So they're for redress. Well, that's however I see fit, right? So it's time, place, and manner restrictions at that point. So not to mention, a cop has to remain unbiased, professional, and they can't be offended. Like, it's literally in their job description. They can't be offended. So
Courtesy.
yeah. So it's one of them things. Like, if anybody in a position of power is trying to strip me of my rights, my first line of defense is words. Always.
Well, I agree with you 100%. If somebody's trying to strip me my rights, they're going to get words from me too. But I'm not going to start out with "shut up." I'm going to start out with, "Hey, that's not exactly right." I'm going to try to reason with the man before I absolutely lose my temper with him.
Oh, I don't lose my temper. No,
but
I've been doing this for a long time. I don't lose my temper.
Yeah.
I lose their job. So that
Right.
cop, within 2 days, he had to go find somewhere else to be.
Right.
He was no longer welcome in the department.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's not protecting my rights, the rights he swore to protect. So if my words hurt his feelings because he's not doing what he swore to protect, that's his problem, not a me problem. And you'll see that. You'll find out. I'm sure you're kind of new to us, but I have many cop friends. I have a lot of cops, a lot of deputies, officers, all different levels of the government that respect my rights and the fact that I'd stand up for their rights. So the good ones never mind bad words. And that's just a fact. I've got a lot of ongoing jokes with the cops. I'll flip them off. They flip me off. Like, we have a good time with it. It's all perspective and how you're taking it. If you're doing something wrong and you get called out on it, obviously you're going to take it differently than if you weren't. And we don't usually just go around calling people out for nothing. We already know by the time we've opened our mouth, so. And like I say, we've done this a long time now. Me personally, this is over 5 years. My community is huge. We're very knowledgeable, and again, we try to start out being nice. Like, it's no different with anybody that we come across. But again, when anybody in authority, especially under the color of law, tries to violate my rights, they're lucky if all I give them is some bad words and tell them to fuck
Hammer
off
is
or
a
whatever.
career killer.
Yeah, because that's it. Like, most of them just have to uproot their whole life and go somewhere else, you know?
And again, if I don't know the exact specifics, if I wasn't there to see it, I'm always going to approach every single situation with skepticism.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
that's
and
what's nice
I
is the case
apologize,
that
but
I just brought up. Like, say, I won. I took it to the court of law,
right,
and I smoked it. And,
right,
you know, I proved
right.
my innocence. I'm proving their guilt. And that cop, well, one of them came out there to your neck of the woods in Bent County now. You've got Demi Apple. She was one of the on-scene cops. Like I say, just days later, she needed to resign. So she's now working out there in Bent County. That's how they move. They just jump from one to the other to the other. So we just keep tabs on them. So now she's out there by you because again, they didn't protect my rights.
Right.
That's their main form of governance is to protect our rights. That's the first thing they swear to.
The gentleman that we were talking about earlier that pepper sprayed everyone at that house, he's now what was it, a ordinance enforcement officer in Sugar City, I think now.
Yep. Yes,
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I do have a lot of I insist on approaching every officer with they're a good person until they prove to me otherwise. I just assume they're going to be a good person with my intent at heart, because if I think that every cop in the world is a bad cop and I'm just not going to ever have any good issues, any good.
Go up to that good cop with a camera and see how he acts.
Well, you walk up to me with your camera on and I'm going to be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What's your intent here? And I get that. And they're cops. And in this day and age, this situation has completely changed from 10 years ago, let alone when I had regular infractions with cops. So, things have changed a whole lot, and I'm probably behind the times on it, but I still, I refuse to give up the idea that cops aren't. Huh? I'm sorry.
Have you ever watched any auditor videos or cop watch videos?
No. Well, I have watched a few Good Citizens videos recently.
He's awesome, man.
Yeah, I've Seco Newts. I mean, I read his stuff and yeah,
there's a lot of them out here in chat. Lady Justice, Liberty Press. She's a really good auditor.
Mm-hmm. I think she's in the chat.
Joe Cool, I thought I seen him earlier. He's a really good auditor. Somebody that isn't here, Direct D, Christopher Ruff, he's a good auditor.
There's a lot of auditors in the state of Colorado for sure. So
yeah, and in Colorado, just keep up with the people that are around your area. There's great auditors in Colorado, man. And for them to show the disdain that cops have for our rights, or even us as citizens, I just can't go for it. I wish I could go to every state and get these people. Like I said earlier, a camera is a career killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, that camera has really brought out the fact that there are bad cops in this world. There's bad people in this world, period. And they're in all walks of life and in all job descriptions. And it's a sad state of affairs, and it's really pulled it out and into the public eye where people can actually see it. And it makes me sad though, because it really does make it hard to get good people to actually want to be cops. And
that's why they have a background check.
Right. Well, nobody even wants to deal with that. I mean, good people don't even want to get into the business anymore. of being law enforcement. And
because of the bad.
yeah, yeah,
e- Everything that a cop has been portrayed by auditors and everybody else as you don't want to mess with cops. Why do people get nervous when cops stops them and start shaking and this and that and the other? They're scared to death of cops.
right.
I mean, seriously. And then we go out there and we test that boundary. We we want to see what the cop's going to say, and if they say nothing, that's a good cop.
Right.
If they say nothing every single time you go out there, that's a good cop. But
On the,
if they
on the
come
other,
up and say something like "move over there" or "move over there," you're uh, doing something to distract me or this or that. Hey, man, sorry, but you need to go and be something else because you ain't gonna be a cop. If you're that scared of being a freaking cop, you need another job.
well, on the other hand, there are people in this world that make it their business just to paint every damn cop in the world as bad cops and run the entire
They
profession.
are until
too.
they prove that they're a good cop.
Yeah, but there
Yeah, to
there
that,
are
Shaun.
good,
Hold on.
honest
I want
people in
I want
this
to stop
world.
you though for a second, Shaun. So just that this is said all the time, you know. If there was good cops, there wouldn't be bad cops, right? Like, how can the same people who are gonna be entrusted to go out and find the crime can't find that the crime's being committed by their own people? So, like, again, like it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It really is. Now, I understand certain situations. Like I say, I have cop friends. Okay. Those guys, they've done as much as they can to prove to me that they're good cops. You know, there's still only so much they're able to do as far as the bad cops. But that is what I have to say to that is, I mean, if the good cops just didn't deal with bad cops, then they wouldn't have that stigmatism.
I'll give you a prime example, Shaun, right? Recently in the news, you had a prisoner who was handcuffed and 13 guards beat the man to death. Okay. Something that if you or I ever did, we'd be in jail for the rest of our lives. Okay. As of today, not one of those cops has been charged with murder. Not one of them. As a matter of fact, the leader, the ringleader, was allowed to resign with his benefits. That's where I think the disparity comes from, right? Is when you see incidents like that, where you got 13 different correctional guards beating on a handcuffed prisoner, killing him, and there's no charges filed. And I think that's where the issue comes into play. Me, I'm on this side of it. I'm not going to give you a judgment on an officer that I'm recording until I request that body camera footage and I hear what he has to say in that body camera footage. If he's sitting there and he's telling the person that he's talking to, these guys are instigators, they're trying to cause a trouble, they're trying to get a lawsuit, that cop, in my opinion, shouldn't be wearing that badge, because that's not what we're there to do. We're there not only to protect the person that they're stopping, we're there to protect them. And that's where I think the problem comes in too, because realistically, if he's on a traffic stop and Good Citizen or me or you people or Gary or even you were recording that situation and it goes south and that person in the driver's seat shoots that officer, wouldn't you want to be able to have an independent version of what the hell happened, who pulled the trigger and turned that over? And I think that's where the issue comes in.
And I've seen it 100 times too, because for every person like you that's trying to do good with that camera, there is someone else who is absolutely just trying to destroy people's lives with the same camera. I mean, it goes both ways. You've got good cops and you've got bad cops. You've got good journalists and you've got evil people behind the camera. It's the same thing. And I still think if we don't do something about all of this, we're going to end up with no police force in a lot of places, which just ensues chaos. There has to be a law enforcement. We are a democratic republic governed by laws. And if there's nobody to enforce those laws, we might as well be Haiti. You know what I mean?
Well, see, here's the thing, though, right? Okay. I agree with you to a point, right? But the problem is the first line of defense is you, right? Because if you're trying to pick up a phone to call a deputy or just a regular cop, they're minutes away, whereas you're on the scene. And if you're being robbed at gunpoint or you're being stabbed, I'm sorry, the first line of defense for me is me.
I'm a Republican, not an anarchist. I mean, we're talking about Wild West then, where everybody, I get it, everybody carries a gun. I think armed society is a polite society, but not everybody's always polite, even if they're carrying a gun. I'd rather not shoot anybody if I don't have to, and I'd rather not go back to 1854 too.
It's funny because I heard it explained fairly decently well last night in a live stream that I was on. And the gentleman that did the live stream explained it this way. The reason why they did the Second Amendment so that everybody was equally armed. And when you have, for the sake of argument, I come across you, right? You and I have a difference of opinion. I'm armed, you're armed, right? You don't want to get shot. I don't want to get shot. We're more likely to try and talk out our differences because neither one of us wants to have to hurt one another.
I'm the only time I'm not armed is when I'm sleeping. So I have disagreements and arguments and even shouting matches, on a regular basis. I live in this world. But in those situations, my gun is absolutely the last thing on my mind. It doesn't even pop into my head. That gun's not going to pop in my head until I fear for my life. If I'm afraid that I'm about to get killed, then my gun pops into my head. Other than that, if you're constantly, and if you're in an argument and you start thinking about your gun, there's something wrong. That is a red flag.
I agree with
my
you.
opinion.
I'm just saying that, but the thought process behind it was that if people think that you are armed, right, and even if you have a difference of opinion, the fact that you're not willing to use that firearm and you're more willing to have a discussion, because neither one of you want to hurt one another. You want to try and find common ground. And that's what I think that I'm trying to get at, is that common ground.
Right.
See what I'm getting to?
Oh, yeah. No, I understand completely. We should be finding common ground with everybody. I open carry at work because I work retail with the public every day because we were getting some really unsavory, kind of scary people walking into the store after a while. And I just decided, I'm going to open carry my gun because I knew damn good and well that was going to put a stop to that. And it did. I didn't have to say anything to anybody. I never mentioned it. I said hello to every person that walked in the door. But when they saw my gun on my hip, they didn't come back the next day. In fact, I never saw them again. And made my job a whole hell of a lot more chill from that point on. A gun is a great deterrent, 100%. You don't have to worry about if I'm having an argument with a customer because they want to return something that's not refundable. They don't have to worry about me carrying a gun. In fact, they're probably not even thinking that. I mean, they might be. I don't know. But that's the last thing on my mind. I mean, if it comes into a shouting match or if they decide to, which I've had happen, if somebody decides to swing a shock at my head, then yeah, all of a sudden that gun's first thing on my head. That's front and center on my noggin. But yeah, but you know, I've never had to shoot anybody before my knife. I've never even had to pull my gun before. Just having it on me is
Well,
normally just takes care
I'm-
of everything.
and I think that kind of brings too. I mean, recently we've seen a lot more shootings amongst police with civilians, and I think last year the total was over 1,100 people that were shot and killed by officers in the course of their duty or whatever the case may be. A lot of them are really questionable shootings, and again, this is kind of where we are, and it's
You
a sad state of affairs all
you
around.
know that statistic. Can you tell me in that same course of time how many cops died?
I believe it was less than 300.
Yeah.
I think the ratio. I think realistically, I think if I remember the statistics correctly, I think you're looking at. I think 8 people get shot. I think it's 8 people. I can't remember if it's a month or not. I think it's more than that. I think it's more. I think it's 8 people a week, something like that. Or you're 8 out of 10 people get shot and killed by police. It's really weird statistic. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's not good. I mean,
Well,
at the end of the day, you got a better chance of getting hit by a lightning. I mean, and again. Not to disparage the police out there, because that's not what I'm about. I would rather, you know, uh, if you needed a cop, you have to have a cop. I get that, but I think that some of the things that we have going on out here with, certain types of tickets that they're given for, questionable tickets for like failure to use a directional 100 feet before a turn, or you didn't stop at the stop line at the stop sign. You know what I mean?
right.
We got better things for them to be doing. There's murders that can be solved. There's rapes that could be solved. Rape cases that could be solved. I would rather see our money being put to better use than what we're getting.
Me and my boss were having that discussion just this week. He was out on his day off working outside during the cold snap, and his dog was out there with him, running around, having a day. He loves that dog loves the snow, and they were out there most of the day, outside working. And all of a sudden, the cops show up in Rocky Ford, and the cop comes up to him and tells him, "Hey, I've gotten complaints that your dog's been outside for more than 6 hours." That's insane. I know Colorado passed a law saying that you can't leave your dog out at night unattended anymore during the winter or whatever. They don't want dogs outside in the cold. But that was absolutely insane. That cop most definitely had something better to do.
So I actually had a question here. Under Sheriff Wallace refused to send a deputy to a home because he said he can't enforce town ordinances, and the city is against a county resident 2 doors away. So I'm just like, I'm blown away that they're being told that the sheriff won't enforce the ordinances, and now, I mean,
You ever feuded with a neighbor? That's a serious question. You ever had a feud with your neighbor?
Everybody's had a feud with their neighbor at some point or another.
Yeah. So there's a huge feud going on between neighbors in town. And honestly, I really don't want to get in the middle of it. But to be specific, to answer that question, Shaun Mobley, by state law, your elected sheriff has the option whether or not he wants to enforce municipal code or not. Municipal code is the laws that, like, the town of Fowler enact, that are only they're only enforceable within the town of Fowler. That's a municipal code. Sheriffs have the option of enforcing municipal code or not, and it's honestly all on the whim of your elected sheriff. It's Shaun Mobley has came out on multiple times publicly. He will not. He absolutely refuses to enforce municipal code, and the reason why he does that is there's legal ramifications to that, and he just, it's more of a detriment than it is to him than it's worth it. So he will not enforce municipal code. So if you call 911 and 911 dispatches out, calls our police officer and says, we've got this call at this location that we need you to respond to, and the officer says, I absolutely can't, I'm just not able to do it at the moment, they bounce it up to Otero County. They will come down here, and if it is a state law or if someone is violating a state law or a county ordinance, by all means, that sheriff by law has to enforce those laws, but they do not enforce municipal law. So if somebody's complaining about your weeds or a noise ordinance, the Otero County Sheriff can't do anything about that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of get where you're coming from, but that to me would mean that if the sheriff's not going to enforce that ordinance, right? Then to me, I think that should be handed over to your deputy or your officer there, right, in Fowler, for him to follow up with charges. To me, and again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just throwing it out there as, hey, listen, wait a minute. If he's not willing to do what should be done, then he should turn around and say to the officer and Fowler, listen, I'm not going to enforce this ordinance. I'm not going to enforce these things, but you need to deal with this situation. It's getting out of hand. It's turning into a powder keg. We need to cut this off at the path. You know what I mean? Let's get it dealt with. And
again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a sheriff either. So I don't know how that's handled or how they're directed or trained to handle situations like that. And the specific person who posed this question originally named our previous police chief. There was a lot going on at that situation, and there was a whole lot of calls that our previous police chief was unable to or unwilling to, unable to answer. We went a good month there where we had a police chief that wasn't able to answer any calls whatsoever for the most part. So everything was getting bounced up to the sheriff's department. I mean, if that what's supposed to happen is the sheriff department responds, makes sure that nobody's life's in danger, nothing serious is happening, and then they're supposed to give a report to our municipal police to follow up on. And our municipal police are supposed to turn around and follow up on that, and then in turn enforce municipal code if need to be. That wasn't happening either, and that's one subject I really can't get into because that one has a lot to do with HR and personal issues and stuff that if I get into, I could end up with the town of Fowler in a lawsuit. So
I understand that. I understand how the disciplinary part of this is an issue. I understand that, and I understand you can't talk about that.
And actually, there was really, well, I can't get into it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I understand. Listen, you don't have to explain it, Shaun. I get it. We've been around the block long enough that we know how it works. So I understand when it comes to certain things, there are certain things that you can and you cannot talk about as a council member, and I get it. And again, I know that some people here may not understand it. What happens is Shaun would actually be opening the town of Fowler up to a lawsuit if he discusses certain disciplinary actions that may or may not have been taken against certain people in certain times at certain instances. And that way there, I just want people to understand that. And I can respect that and I understand it. So,
And it doesn't, it's not just disciplinary. Any issue that has to do with human resources,
right.
personal information, personal health, anything like that, I can't discuss it. If they're an employee with the town of Fowler, I can't discuss it.
Right. I guess, like you said, though, is I think you got to the root of my question, though, which was the sheriff should have bounced it to the officer so that he could enforce the municipal code.
And that goes right back to my original frustration, is trying to keep good people in the positions in our police department, and keeping our police department full so that stuff actually happens. Just having one cop on duty he or she cannot hit every single call. They can't follow up on everything. I mean, one person can't do it all. So we've got to figure out our police department. We've got to get it fully staffed, and we need to keep it fully staffed. And that is just something that has to happen. No matter how we figure out how to do it, it's got to happen.
Well, I guess maybe I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there, which you guys are gonna. I don't know what you guys got going on out there. I'm not sure what the budget is for the year for you folks. I haven't got into that part of it yet, where we requested that yet. And that really kind of poses one quick question: is I'm just curious, is how the treasurer ends up being not only the treasurer and town clerk or court clerk, but is also the mayor in Sugar City. That's kind of a little odd situation, especially seeing how Sugar City is having money issues over there.
Cindy's the mayor of Sugar City?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No. Wait, hang on.
I can't believe you didn't know that?
No. I'm like Googling it as we speak.
Gary knows. Gary.
So I would like to jump in there a little bit, talking about the police department and whatnot. And believe me, I get it. There's all kinds of personal issues between neighbors and whatever else. And, I suppose the last thing I want to do is send an officer or a sheriff in the event that we have to have a sheriff or somebody. Noise ordinances, they are so hard to they're so hard to write up. They're so hard to beat. If it goes to court, I honestly think our law enforcement has more important stuff to do than doing noise ordinances and stuff like that. Now, if the guy's obviously pulling a gun or whatever, we need somebody there, law enforcement, to kind of be the go-between or whatever. But and with that being said, again, in Otero County, Sheriff Mobley, he is lacking in a lot of areas, and I don't want to really get into it about with him, because this is about Fowler. This is not about him. But with that being said, Shaun, how we're talking about the people don't want to they don't like the water bill. They don't like the extra added, if their water bill, if they're shut off and the place is vacant or whatever, how do they feel about upping the revenue for being able to hire police officers at a decent rate? I mean, it's hard to tell, especially these small towns. I know it's a fight with Rocky Ford all the time when it comes to the budget for the police department.
So we actually voted down in uh,
A tax increase.
a tax increase at the last election. But of course, I had 50% of those taxes going to our golf course too, which was a point of contention. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, just general rule, nobody likes taxes. Nobody likes their taxes increased.
Right.
But it may get to the point where the town gets to the point where, hey, we're going to have to do something to do this. And that may be. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. It has been floated that we give up on the police department entirely and give it over to the sheriff's department and just hire a code enforcement officer to take care of town ordinances. We're supposed to have a code enforcement officer. We have one budgeted anyways. So we need a dog catcher badly. We have lots of problems with stray dogs and vicious dogs in town. So, but I don't know, neither of that. And again, these are my opinions, not the stance of the town. And it's been floated between town trustees before. I've talked to town trustees about it. I've had a long conversation a couple of years ago with Sheriff Mobley about it. And I think Sheriff Mobley is an absolutely awesome guy who's trying to do a whole lot with 9 people. And right now, absolutely no jail and a small budget. I mean, he has 9 whole employees, including officers and everything, for the entire county of Otero. I think he does an amazing job with what he has. Yeah, I mean, everything's up in the air right now. Also, I'm not going to go. I am not for just firing the entire what we have for a police force and just dumping the entire thing just out from under somebody. If we end up with 0 people in the police force, we may start floating the idea with Sheriff Mobley, but I don't know.
Well,
Our current police officer that's currently on duty, Skylar, I've been getting all kinds of good comments about him.
Accommodations.
A lot of people like him. So
yeah, we've been hearing the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Skylar, I mean, he was in Rocky Ford, and I didn't even know he left, to be honest with you. And
yeah,
I did. I liked him. Didn't really know a lot about him, but I guess my deal going back to the sheriff's department, didn't Fowler try that with the county here a few times?
It was floated, but no, it never actually. Nobody actually took actual action on it. It was just floated as an idea, and at that time, the last time it was brought up, there was a lot of pushback from the citizenship about it. So,
because it seemed like at one point, probably and it may have been closer to 10 years ago that I don't know if there was an actual agreement between Fowler and the sheriff's department, but I did have friends on the sheriff's department at the time, and they always complained about having to go to Fowler in the middle of the night or whatever, because of an agreement that had been made, and
right.
At the time, Fowler didn't have anybody, and that was their only way they could get somebody over there at the time.
Right. Well, up until recently, the sheriff's department hasn't been very happy with us to begin with, because they were constantly having to respond to calls out here that should have been handled by a municipal officer. So
your own force, yeah.
If we were giving, how that agreement would actually work is we would be paying the sheriff's department as a town. We would be paying the sheriff's department to patrol our streets and enforce law inside the town, and to do that, and that would actually give Mobley more budget to actually hire more people to actually cover that, whereas Mobley wasn't getting a dime from us for the last year and doing that anyways. So,
well, maybe not getting a dime, but I mean, They are taxpayers, and it does go to the
They
county.
are taxpayers, but from the town government, he wasn't getting a dime.
Right.
Right.
I mean, they've had that issue with Ordway and Crowley County also.
Yeah.
As
In
far
fact,
as-
the Crowley County Sheriff just recently changed his mind. He was enforcing municipal code in Ordway, and he just recently changed his mind, decided he wasn't going to do that anymore. So,
right.
and I think it has a lot to do with Ordway's town council. I hear there's some, I don't know, weirdness going on with that right now.
Yes, it seems like all these little places have a lot of weirdness, including Rocky
Right.
Ford. I mean, you guys aren't the only ones. I mean,
Right.
we're talking Sugar City. Of course, these guys are from Aguilar, and we. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on that, but boy, Aguilar's a mess. And I think it's all these smaller places,
And if you guys don't mind me plugging in a precinct chair thing real quick, talking about Rocky Ford, you have an open position on your town council right now in Ward 2. And if anybody in here that's listening from Ward 2 or knows somebody that's on Ward 2, we really need a conservative voice on that council from that ward before somebody just appoints their buddy to city council to just agree with them. I'm just going to put it that way. So if you live in Ward 2 in Rocky Ford, please consider running for town council. You don't run. What you do is you need to go down to the clerk's office there in town and hand them a letter of intent that will be opened at the next Rocky Ford Town Council meeting. But somebody needs to apply for that job.
Yeah, we need all the citizen participation we can get in all these towns.
Definitely. In your local, everybody needs to participate in their local government.
Hey Shaun, with that being said, you and I know a guy. Tell him to go down and fill his paperwork out.
They have to live in Ward 2. I know a guy that's more than wielding, but he doesn't live in Ward 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know a guy that's in Ward 2. At least he should be. He's right. He's one block off of Main Street.
You need to go kick him in the butt then.
Yeah.
That's right. We need an 11th person, right, Gary? We're tired of the same 10
Oh,
people.
yeah. And Shaun is exactly right. I mean, we have a mayor there in Rocky Ford that is, and it, again, it's my opinion. And if I'm wrong, somebody needs to tell me and don't just come out and call me a liar. Just tell me that, hey, you may not be right, but he is stacking that council, and he's bringing in a lot of pushing a lot of stuff that is not conducive to the town that I want to be around.
All right. Hang on a minute, guys. I apologize. I need to go check on something real quick.
Yeah. I think he just figured out that Cindy is the mayor of Sugar City, though, right?
Holy cow.
Pretty sure he knows that. Yeah. That's that whole situation's weird, to be honest, but sounds like we might have to have him back on the show. What do you guys think about that? You guys want me to try to get him back on the show again? See if
and I would like to see get him back on the show, and I would like to see I don't know what his name is, but I'll find out. But I'd also like to see if we couldn't get another councilman on there.
Right, I'm allowed one other. I'm allowed one other as well, right? So legally.
I hope they didn't do anything. I touched the mute button on my mic and it shocked the crap out of me.
No, we were just saying, it's been about 2 hours, 15 minutes. Would you be open to coming back up on the show again? And if so, Gary was just mentioning maybe one of the other board members would be interested. I know we can do 2, not 3.
I don't know how receptive they would be to that. It's going to depend upon what the reverberations of this this meeting that we've had tonight's going to be, on what's going to happen with that, I'm sure.
Well, and
Like it-
I know we was able to get a few good questions answered for sure, and we probably
Right.
could go for
I
hours
did
and
see
hours
some
longer.
questions scroll by that I wanted to answer, but I didn't want to interrupt either. So
Yeah, we did get some
um,
good ones in here, and I know people. It was short notice for all of us, right?
right.
As well. So I'm sure there's plenty of other questions and other people that couldn't quite make it tonight as well. But yeah, I mean, I think this was helpful. I think that people were able to voice their concerns, and now majorly now some of the main concerns of the people that we're
Yeah.
dealing with, at least, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sound like anything that can't be addressed or put in line to be addressed. Like
Mhm.
little things every time. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
it helps. It all adds up.
Yeah. And then the thing
I'm
is,
more than happy to come on and talk anytime. The more I can get out there and talk to people, I think I personally think the better it'll be. I don't know. I may end up getting voted out of city council come the next meeting over this. I don't know.
I doubt
Who
it.
knows?
I doubt it.
so again, there's got to be a place to start, and somebody's got to stick their feet in the water and get started.
Right.
And
Right.
it's the biggest thing with again is citizen participation, and if you're filling the council room, then that's a pretty good start for the last
Yeah,
few
it's a
years.
good start.
Yeah.
It's a good start. And
Yeah.
if you can keep them there, that's the key, right? Like, so
Right.
many people
Right.
run them
Right.
off with threats and intimidation. I see it happen all the time, and then you can't
No.
never get them to come back. It's
No.
like,
I
yeah,
guarantee you, if I see that, I'm going to be speaking up about it in the middle of the council room. I don't care what those people say. It doesn't matter. You don't threaten citizens. We work for them. They don't work for us. And it's as simple as that. I don't even get paid, and I'm still working for them.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're the ones that hired us, and they're the ones that get to fire us. So
I do have one more question, Shaun, and I was just doing the math. It said there were 5 new people on the council, and then you got on there. Does that mean you have an open seat, or was that a previous guy that's been there for a while?
No. So 7 seats total, including the mayor. 5 seats were reelected in April. We're up for election in April, including the mayor. We are currently one short. Brenda Eddy resigned at the beginning of the month. So, and just like the Rocky Ford thing, we are taking letters of intent to replace Brenda Eddy for the rest of her term, which she had a 2-year term, and I think she's got a year and a half left in it. So, yeah.
So the big question in chat that they wanted you to get to that we did miss is the group out patrolling.
The one?
The group out patrolling. What's your feelings on that? I guess they're feeling, since there isn't law enforcement, there's a group out patrolling doing what what they're doing.
I don't get group patrolling.
Yeah, that's the rumors I'm hearing.
I don't even know what that is.
So there you go. So Cindy, he's not aware.
I don't even understand the question.
Him.
What is group patrolling?
So they're looking on my side anyway. It looks like they're calling them a vigilante group. It's out patrolling.
No. Not that I've ever seen. No. I mean, there are people with cameras. I've saw a video of priest out with all the new trainees out serving a lady who whipped out her camera and gave priest a piece of her mind. I mean, that's going on in town. There's no vigilantes. I know. If there was vigilantes, there would be mayhem, I'm sure. No, there's no vigilantes or anything. We do have a neighborhood watch system. And there's a Facebook group for it that our previous mayor, Lucas Flancha, started. That's still going. It's called Fowler Citizen United. And it's pretty much, that's what it's for. It's for neighborhood watch. Most of us, not most of us, a lot of us around here have got doorbell cameras. I've got a camera in my carport staring at my cars. If we see something funny, if somebody's walking up at 2:00 in the morning and checking the doors on our cars, we'll post that up on Facebook so that everybody can see it. In fact, that's been going on a lot lately. We are getting gangs from Pueblo that they get tired of trying to deal with the Pueblo police. So they come out here thinking we're all just stupid rednecks and start trying to steal our stuff. And that happens very regularly. So yeah, we do have neighborhood watch around here, but no, there's no vigilantes.
So that's what you're calling the community. Community watch? Is that the deal?
Yeah. Vigilantism to me is where you actually go tackle the guy, hold him at gunpoint, and dole out your own punishment to him. That's vigilantism. No. Neighborhood watch means that we keep an eye on each other's stuff, and we all coordinate with the police to have the police do all of that stuff, not us doling out the punishments ourselves.
Well, listen, I don't know about you folks, but I got another place that I got to be right now. I'm about an hour and a half behind on my work tonight.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I'm going to have to wrap it up myself.
Yeah, and we'll revisit that last
conversation.
question, right? That's a good question. We'll revisit it. Maybe a little research on that.
Okay.
From all sides. I mean, hopefully we're not in that type of situation, And maybe like I say, we can coordinate something to get you back on the show. I mean, I enjoyed having you here. I think some of the people out there that were either in here or are going to be able to watch it back at any point in time, they'll be leaving this a little more informed, and like we started with, that helps with the issues. That's why I don't think you're going to have any problems with the council. You are trying to help with the issues. A lot of the issues is misinformation or half information. So
someone's very, very hard, working really hard to try to get my attention in chat. 90% of this town carries guns. I mean, we live in rural Colorado, and we're very 2A friendly. Everybody has guns. They're not, just because they have an agreement with you and they might be carrying a gun at the time does not make them a vigilante. And yeah, it doesn't work that way. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I just hope the kids are safe.
Yeah.
I'm seeing kids in here, and so that, there's that. But again, like I say, we can research into that on both ends a little bit more and make sure the community's being safe, acting fair, right?
Yeah.
So
everybody wants the kids to be safe.
exactly.
Definitely.
Right. There's never an argument there.
Right.
So, well, guys, you guys in the chat, you guys get your questions together for next time. We'll see what we can do with some of those other board members. So sometimes we have luck. So you never know. If not, Shaun said he's more than willing to come back up again. So we'll schedule a time. I mean, we could just go for another 2 hours. That's the reason why we're ending it now, because it'd just be more productive, I think, to come back again. Yes, sir. And we appreciate you. And you keep up the hard work over there. I know it's not easy. You gotta have thick skin. You have to be true to yourself. It takes somebody who cares to be in the position for the right reasons, anyways.
Right.
And hopefully we can get more, like you've said, like we've said. Hopefully we can get more community involvement, not
Yeah.
just in Fowler, but the surrounding towns. The better off the
Yes.
surrounding towns do, the better off you guys do. I mean, you guys are
Mhm.
all connected there in the valley, all the way over here to us on I-25. I mean, the better we all do, the better we all do. So, I mean, I think little by little we're getting there, with multiple towns, and I think it starts with little conversations like this, and people feeling again more knowledgeable when it's done,
Right.
So,
Right.
all right, well, we got 2 hours 25 minutes. We appreciate you guys in the chat. You guys all have a great night, and we will be back live again shortly. So
All right, guys.
hopefully you guys have hit the notification bell, and you'll get your notification when we restart the stream. All right. Marissa, Cindy, we appreciate you guys' input. You guys have been super active in the chat. Lots of questions. You guys continue the good work as well. We will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you very much.